Is the right deck? It is. All right. All right, so Grishoalbrand. For those that haven't seen this deck before, its name derives from the fact that you put a Griselbrand into play, either with Goryo's Vengeance or through the Breach, and then we draw through our deck using the card Nourishing Shoal, that's the Shoal part of Grishoalbrand, to gain a bunch of life to continue drawing our deck. And then eventually we put a Borborygmos into play as well, thanks to the Fair and Balanced Simian Spirit Guide, and Borborygmos discards a bunch of lands to kill your opponent. We're trying a couple things today, no major deviations, but we got 4 copies of Ransack the Lab here, which I think this is an upgrade from Discovery. So this looks at the top 3 cards of your deck and puts 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard, whereas Discovery surveils 2 and then draws. I'm playing 4 and 2 because I wanted more of this effect. Previously, we'd played copies of Night's Whisper up to 4 of this card, but Modern's pretty aggressive overall, so this style of effect is tough to justify having in the aggressive matchup. So these cards allow us to get set up without hurting our health total, whereas Night's Whisper is nice because it gives us card advantage in the grindy matchups against things like black, green, or control. One other change in the sideboard here is that I've got 3 copies of Chalice of the Void, as opposed to Leyline Sanctities I played in the past. Leyline is good against like exactly black, green, rock, but outside of that, I think Chalice is a little bit more flexible in the format right now. It's really good against like the Phoenix 6, for instance. Hey, Zorro, thanks for cashing in that brand new Prime support. There's a lot of great people making a lot of great stuff on Twitch right now. Thanks for supporting mine this month with that. I appreciate you dropping off the Prime. Twitch Prime pays my mortgage these days, so I really appreciate that support. I'm glad you enjoy the YouTube stuff. So like, if this hand had a Griselbrand in it, like if one of these through the breaches or shoals is a Griselbrand, I'd probably keep speculatively and just like Faithless Looting and try and hit a land, but without a fatty to guaranteed put in the bin, the risk just isn't worth the reward there. Oh right, I don't think I've ever played this deck with the London Mulligan. That's sweet. I think this is another catch and release here, at least on 6. On 5, I might keep that. Yeah, this is like not super exciting, but it's definitely keepable at 5. So we're gonna keep this. I'm gonna get rid of Borby plus Ritual, I think. And we'll play this Blackcleave Cliffs and pass. So I'm actually not taking more donations for Pauper decks at the moment, Guacamole. If it becomes a regular, we're going to do them for 25. But I've got 6 Pauper decks in the queue, theoretically, at the moment. So I'm not... I don't really want to take more than that until I'm certain that it's going to be something that's going to stick. So 6 seems like more than a fair shake to give a gauge for how popular it'll be in terms of content. Give people exposure, a little bit of variety of the format. That being said, 4 of the Pauper decks I have sitting in my queue right now are Dealer's Choice variants. So if you wanted to make a case for what one of those Dealer's Choice variants should end up being, because I haven't done any research yet. Yep, definitely in for Faithless Looting. I would like to say I'm probably going to start with decks that are considered to be good in the format, because playing a bunch of bad decks and things like Modern and even Standard, like, not only does it feel bad there, but at least like I know they're bad. So like playing a deck that isn't good in a format that I don't know, it's like I don't know, like, is the format just bad or is just like this deck bad? I think I actually want to... I'm going to graveyard the Looting and keep the Whisper. Yeah, because this bins it, right? We're not scrying, so that seems fine. Night's Whisper is one of our better cards in these grindy matchups because, like I said, it draws us 2 cards. Help us unmulligan here a little bit. The opponent had an initial piece of disruption, but they don't have a threat here. Wonderful to see like Liliana the Veil come down. No 3rd land. That's great for us. You can always find everything that we've played on my website and my YouTube channel. If it didn't go up on the website or the YouTube channel, that usually means someone cut in front of it. The draft stream's actually with no delay. So the way the draft stream works is it's basically just a race. It's kind of silly overall, but I guess that's how they do it every time. We're basically just racing. Yep. So we're going to discard this Nourishing Shoal here. And then we're going to hope to draw a Griselbrand or a Worldspine Wurm. If we draw a Griselbrand or Worldspine Wurm next turn, we can go land, pitch Spirit Guide through the breach. Let's go ahead and flashback Faithless Looting here. That's really unfortunate. So if they don't play a discard spell here, we can bin the Shoal to this and then still rip a Wurm or a Griselbrand. However, the fact that we're through 3 Nourishing Shoals means that Griselbrand's not really a good draw anymore because we're not going to have the cards in our deck to allow us to draw through the entirety of our deck. Although I guess if we hit Griselbrand, we can just, like, attack the Liliana down and then, like, draw 7 to gas up. And then, like, eventually breach another Wurm. Wow, Kalitas is actually really good here as well. Because Kalitas means that that's such a beating. This is such a rough game. Like, we mulliganed, they had a discard spell, and then, like, these just, like, lined up perfect. So this was a great draw, except this says that our creatures don't die, they get exiled. So, and this is just, like, one of the reasons why I like playing Modern in a casual setting like this on Magic Online, but it's just so rancid to play as a competitive format. Like, we talked about before we started this league, that, like, I cut my Leyline of Sanctities, and this is the only matchup they're good in, because this matchup's not super popular. So it's just like, well, I cut my only card that's good in this matchup from the sideboard, so, like, I'm just hoping not to play against them, we play into it, and then, like, they happen to have a card that's just, like, hosing part of our strategy. And just, like, that's just how this format works. You're just, like, crossing your fingers and hoping that you don't get hosed by the random things that, like, basically, if people want to beat you, you're not going to beat them. So a lot of decks in this format aren't you deciding what you're going to have play against and then weaving back and forth. It's, did your opponent decide, do they really want to beat you? And if they did, you're just going to lose. That's just how the format works. A lot of the good decks in the format are like that. Whether it's Dredge, whether it's Phoenix, like, these decks all have cards that are just very powerful against them. And while there is a small bit of play and counterplay, for the most part, a lot of it is just outside of your control. And you just gotta accept that as part of the format, right? That's not a complaint. That's a statement of fact. And some people are really into that sort of thing. Other people not so much. This hand's fine. It wants a second land pretty bad, but we've got a scry here. If we hit the second land, the Night's Whisper should hopefully propel us into land number 3. And if we can find lands 3, 4, and 5, we've got this through the breach here. So my opponent is mulligan to 5, looking for Leyline of the Void. The fact that they're on Leyline of the Void tells me that I would like to board down on my Goryo's Vengeance plan for the next few games. You have a Thoughtseize as well. Just Inquisition, sure. I assume they're going to take my Night's Whisper since the Leyline shuts down the Goryo's Vengeance. And again, this is the downside of playing a graveyard strategy in Modern. Like, there's a lot of people playing these cards that just say, okay, half your deck doesn't work. This also, similar to Kalitas from last game, I'm going to keep that there because it lets us loot past the Goryo's Vengeance, not good. Similar to Kalitas last game, normally Through the Breaching Worldspine Wurm is good because it's a way around their graveyard hate, but this card means that this doesn't get a dice trigger because it just gets exiled, so this just hits them for 15, it doesn't actually kill them. So, I mean, if we draw a land next turn, we can theoretically, like, breach the Worldspine Wurm, but that's not really going to be great. What's the state of things here? What does that mean? The state of things here is we're conceding and going to the next match. And that's the great thing about playing Modern on Magic Online, is that, you know, when you do get a match where, like, you run bad, your opponent has their hate cards, they're, like, specifically gunning for your deck, you just get to start the next match right away, right? Whereas, like, playing a paper Modern tournament is, like, doubly miserable, because, like, when that happens, you have to, like, sit and wait 45 minutes for the next round to start after you get ganked in 5 minutes. I signed on early, so we would have plenty of time to get 2 Modern decks in. If all the matches go like that, though, we might have time to play some Standard before we draft. That was rough. Like most of the bans in Modern and lack of unbans, I really didn't like what they did. We banned Bridge from Below this time. Next time there's something that people think needs to be banned, it'll be because Faithless Looting is still legal for some reason. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, the reason why we did a draft on Monday... The reason why we did a draft on Monday was because there's a draft tournament today. So I'm being paid money to draft. Ooh, that's a good draw. That means if we find a Griselbrand on this Ransack the Lab, we'll get to put it in the bin for later. I'm gonna take the Through the Breach, because I have this pig in my hand already, right? So, like, this means if I just, like, run some lands off here, I could just, like, breach Griselbrand. Yeah. Yeah, Faithless Looting, I just, like I said, I was really hoping that... we'd get a new non-rotating format, because just, like, I'm just so divorced from, like, caring what goes on in Modern at this point. Just, like, it's just like, you know, like, look, my opponent's playing something new and neat, and it's just another linear deck, right? So we had a Lotus Field off of this Amulet into a Brought Back. And, like, I'm sure what they're doing is going to be really novel, but, like, ultimately it's just going to be another way for me to get combo killed, right? So, like, is this a turn 2 Primeval Titan off of Lotus Field and Brought Back? Yeah, like... Okay, I guess. That's neat. Look, it's another new way to die on turn 2, effectively. I guess that's not strictly true. If they don't kill me for 2 turns, I can potentially... No, I'm definitely dead next turn, right? Alright, I can draw Faithless Looting, or I can Ransack into Ditch a Griselbrand plus draw a land. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's very close to Yu-Gi-Oh! It's very close to Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, there are some interactive decks, but for the most part, it's just a bunch of people combo killing each other. Yeah, they get to attack with the Primeval Titan. That's true. I guess the fact that they have to pay for the Pact means that I won't be dead next turn, because I won't have the mana to double strike it, maybe. Wait. Will they have mana to pay for the Pact? Because this bounces, right? They're only going to have 3 lands, right? Did they mess up? Were they just so excited they got to do the thing that they didn't realize they couldn't pay for Pact? Maybe they have a Simian Spirit Guide? Yeah, I agree. In my opinion, oh, this is how they do it. This is clever. This is clever. Clever. Lotus Field plus flag. And like I said, it's neat. What they're doing is super novel, but it's just another way for me to die on turn 2 effectively, right? Like all of the oh that's neats that happen in Modern are like, oh, that's neat. Okay, I guess we're done on turn 3, right? Moto has had enough of it. Moto's just like, this is nonsense, Jeff. I'm crashing. I felt like crashing too, Moto. Let's be honest. I also felt like crashing. And like at the end of the day, it's you know, you can't even complain too much about like what's going on in Modern. Especially when you're playing Grishoalbrand, right? Like we're sitting over here playing a deck that can literally kill people on the first turn of the game, and it's like, oh, my opponent's effectively killed me on the second turn, but like I don't even really have a leg to stand on, right? Because like we know what the format is, and we're also trying to do the same thing to our opponents. And that's, like I said, just really why I was hugely let down by the historic announcement, because I was really looking for like a slightly bigger card pool to play in than standard. That wasn't quite Yu-Gi-Oh! Like Modern-ish Yu-Gi-Oh! And doesn't come with decks that cost more than my mortgage payment every month like Legacy does. Morning, Ozzy. Holy crap. All right. You want, and look at that. I thought we were gonna have a chance. They wanted it way more than we wanted it. That's a good draw. It was impressive. Listen, Modern's a format where both players should just like sit on opposite ends of the room, and then whoever gets there first should just raise their hand, okay? Okay? When you finally get there, just raise your hand and let the opponent know. Let the opponent know what's up. I'm gonna bring in Abrade so we can kill amulets. Yeah, opponent's Jake was like, you don't think you're dead next turn, eh, Jeff fan? Let me give you a little bit of the business end here. Yep. I thought this was my second month. I guess my 2-3 sub ran 3 months longer than I wanted it to. Just a little bit more short, Jeff. I'm gonna gift a tier 1 sub for speech sub. Thank you, Arcane. I appreciate it. Welcome back. We do have an Abrade for their amulet if they have an amulet on one this time. I love all the people that are like Kaladesh and Amonkhet were terrible and they shouldn't be in this set. This current format is terrible. It shouldn't be in there. Lots of standards devolve into things that are bad. And again, the power level of cards is contextual to format in which they're being played in. Energy's so busted, we have to get rid of it. Where the flip are the energy cards in Modern? Why aren't the energy cards doing well in Modern? Oh, is it because they're not strong enough to be competitive in Modern? Is that perhaps the reason? Is the reason they're not seeing play here because they're not good enough? Because they're only good in formats that are weaker? So when you put them in a deeper card pool, they don't overwhelm everything? Is that how Magic the Gathering works, Jeff? Weird. Strange how Magic works that way, Jeff. It's crazy to me how people just every season, people, you can't Goryo's Vengeance Wurm. Doesn't matter, shouldn't have played the land. Every season, people fail to correctly evaluate what's going to be good in Standard. And these people think they can correctly evaluate what's going to be good in a format that had twice as many sets as standard or 50% more sets than standard. You're stupid. How stupid can you possibly be? You think people can't properly evaluate what's going on in a 5-set format, but people just they just know. They know with certainty what would happen in a format that has 15 sets in it. No, you don't. Sorry, you just don't. It might be too good, but for all these people that are speaking with this they're the authority and they know for sure that Kaladesh and Amonkhet would be too strong. Get out of here. You're lazy, and that's not how this works. Standard right now is cornerstoned by cards that basically tell you you're not allowed to play or enjoy the fundamentally most interesting parts of Magic. Cards like Teferi aren't too powerful, but they're miserable to play against. Spell-based combos like Nexus of Fate and Wilderness Reclamation have so few lines of interaction of them, you're forced to either race your opponent or have very specific narrow interaction and just play narrow game and just play game ones where you just have no chance if you're playing a mid-range deck. Standard, the mid-range and interactive decks in the format are filled with these huge, powerful swings that invalidate every single decision you've made throughout the course of the game. Command the Dreadhorde and Mass Manipulation are cards that are basically like Tron. Your opponent's just oops, I'm going to undo every decision you've made this game and any mistake I've made and just take your whole board or bring everything back. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So it's just it's what we come back to a lot of time, right? People are just afraid to say, I don't know when it comes to things. And all of these people that are just Kaladesh and Amonkhet would ruin things. It's no, you could say they might ruin things, but guess what? You actually just don't know that. We just don't. And there's a very good chance, based on the fact that these cards weren't strong enough to see play in Modern, that they're fine. And heavily synergistic things like energy are less likely to get upgrades than less synergistic things than things that are less synergistic. They're just individually good cards, right? We're dead, right? They have double amulet. It's a good time. Good time. Modern's a good time sometimes. We're growing old together. 39 months to Twitch time is the trend. It is an incredibly long time. You are not wrong. And thank you for the tier 2 as always, Immortal. Hope your Wednesday is finding you well. Yeah, they printed so many safety valves for energy, whether it's the 1-cost black card that can take energy counters off of players. There's Torpor Orb. They've printed so many good cards after the fact. And like I said, I'm not saying I have all the answers and have certainty that this would be okay. But what I am saying is that we don't know, and we don't know unless we figure it out and take a risk, right? Because the risk, the reward is that we get this interesting format with a ton of cards we get to play in. It's just like in Modern, right? Stoneforge Mystic is probably fine, but we'll never know because they're so incredibly risk averse. Splinter Twin and Birthing Pod, probably embarrassing in the current format, but we'll never know because they're so incredibly risk averse. We say with absolute certainty Grishoalbrand is too slow for Modern. I mean, I don't think that's true. This deck's absolute best draws. The problem here is that, we haven't had any of our absolute best draws yet in these games today. We've had these middling draws where, we have our cards like Ransack the Lab and Discovery, which give us consistency to kill on, turns 3, 4, and 5. But the decks we've been playing against, they've been faster than us, right? So we haven't had time to kill on turns 3, 4, and 5. Like that last game, they had Grafdigger's Cage where we would have killed them on 4, and I was going to kill them on 5 because I had Abrade, but killing them on 5 was too slow. And look, we, like I said, Modern is very much just heavily matchup roulette. And I cut my Leyline of Sanctities from the sideboard, and now we're playing against Green Blackrock for the second time in 3 matches. And that's just how it goes. I agree. I think I want to keep my 3rd land. I think I'd rather discard a Ransack here. People are worked up, Greater, because the strength of Magic... I'm actually just not playing this match. I'm just going to go to the next one. I don't really want to play this matchup. This matchup is bad. I cut the only card from my sideboard that gives me a chance here. Let's just play the other ones. The reason why people are upset that Historic is not happening sooner rather than later is because these are people who are heavily enfranchised Modern players who heavily enfranchised Magic players who see this as another way where Wizards of the Coast has made a short-term decision as what they see as a benefit for grabbing money from new players as opposed to giving people who have been here day in and day out, year after year, a thing to enjoy. There are a lot of people who love playing constructed Magic, who won't touch Standard, good, bad, or otherwise, with a 10-foot pole, who want to be able to enjoy Arena and wanted a new format to play there. Not a forgotten leftover, we had to give you something because your cards are rotating, but there's no support and there's no extra sets for it, so it's not interesting to brew in. That's why people are upset. There are people who have watched Modern degrade from the format where Splinter Twin was legal and the format was awesome and interactive and there was a lot going on into the crap show that we have today. That we're hoping for something new and something different. Because again, the thing that's kept Magic such a strong game for so long is that it gives you just this huge variety of ways to play the game. Hi, it's Jace. Thanks for the 9 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. Hope you're having a good one. Alright, so we're looking for Goryo's Vengeances and Through the Breaches. I'm going to keep the land because I've got a Faithless Looting in my bin. So we can use that land to flash this back next turn. Blackcleave Cliffs Aether Vial is interesting. I wonder if they're playing like Slivers. It could be Goblins. Yeah, Goblins is the new, yep, confirmed Goblins. So if you're saying Standard's miserable, Modern's bad, Historic's a failure to launch, where does that leave your Magic content? Well, there's a reason why I've added Dota Underlords into my regular stream schedule, and why we're going to be trying to play some Pauper on stream in the not-too-distant future. That's where it leaves me. There's a reason why both of those things are happening. How is it supposed to, is it possible WotC will sanction and support a strike after it gains? How is it supposed to gain some traction when it's just a throwaway, format? When there's no ranked queue, there's no depth to it because it's just the standard format that's previously rotated plus one more set, like. The big problem with Standard is that and this is subjective, so feel free to disagree. The play patterns of a lot of the popular decks in Standard right now are miserable to play against. There are a ton of decks that basically what they say is don't play Magic. Oh, did you like playing Magic at instant speed? Did you come play Magic instead of Hearthstone because you like instant speed stuff? Can't do that anymore. Can't respond to things. It's not just Baby Tef. Baby Tef is one of it. It's also Wilderness Reclamation. But I mean, to a degree, I mean, yeah, Land War Elves into Nissa is miserable. Like, Nissa's a fine card. Land War Elves is kind of okay, but you put them together and it gets awful. So, and I mean, like, honestly, the 3-mana Teferi is such a crux in the format because, like, the other things people complain about have reasonable counterplay if Teferi doesn't exist. So take Thought Erasure, for example. Thought Erasure is a card that's kind of frustrating to play against, but they printed awesome cards to give you counterplay. Bag of Holding is such an amazingly elegant anti-Thought Erasure card that's completely unplayable in a format where 3-mana Teferi exists. Thought Erasure, Veil of Summer, super elegant answer. Veil of Summer is a super elegant answer to Thought Erasure. But you can't respond to Thought Erasure with Veil of Summer if Teferi's in play. For modern players who haven't played Standard, here's the best way I could put it. Imagine a format where there's a lot of decks like Modern, but Lantern Control is a tier 1 deck. And Lantern Control gets to be splashed into a variety of different decks. The play patterns of Lantern Control. All right. I mean, if we draw a Goryo's Vengeance next turn, we could potentially still kill them. And we died. It's been a rough morning. I'm aware that I could pitch Wurm to Nourishing Shoal to not be dead next turn, but I also just don't have enough life to win the game from that point anymore, so we're gonna move along. Goblins, Bontus, and Anger sound good here. We'll trim some of these clunkier draw spells. Yeah, I agree, Monjoey. Like, Nexus of Fate's the type of thing where you beat Nexus of Fate and you walk away from the experience with, man, that was not fun. And like, whenever you have someone playing your game and they walk away from it going, I won, but it wasn't fun, like, you need to really take a step back and think about what your game was doing. You know, I'm just hoping that between getting beat up all day yesterday and starting off today rough, we're gonna have really good variance in the draft tournament today. I think Ransack the Lab's a new card. Is that, I don't know what set symbol this is. Is this from Modern Horizons? Genuinely don't know what the Modern Horizons set symbol look like offhand. I think that's it. Okay, we got that one. The draft tournament starts at 11 a.m. Central. Let's update that. I think I'm just discarding both of these. I think I want to keep Ransack the Lab to keep churning through my deck, and I want an Abrade in case they have like a Grafdigger's Cage. Pretty good. So I get to grab the Worldspine Wurm here, so I have a thing to throw the breach into play if I draw some lands, and I ditched a Griselbrand into the bin, so if I draw Goryo's Vengeance, we get to floop that out. I mean, that's 100% what's going on, Dig. The historic announcement was the laziest thing they could do. It was literally them being like, all right, folks, here's the thing we technically promised you, a way to play with your rotated cards because you can't dust things in this game. They technically gave us what they promised, but it wasn't what we wanted. Nah, I'm not interested in playing best of one. Best of one is Magic has so much variance by design that not giving myself a chance to win a match by playing a best of three sounds super miserable. So, as an interesting anecdote, hey, look, we finally put a thing into play. Is this our fourth match? This is our first time putting a thing into play. That's so sad. It's been a rough morning. As an interesting anecdotal evidence, a bulk of the people who visit my website are visiting looking for standard decks, and my website had a what was the drop? Let me just do the math. What was it? We had it's like a 70% drop in traffic or so, 60%. I don't know. You run the numbers. I went from a 250,000 page views in June. No, it is July. 250,000 page views in May to under 100,000 page views in June. It was just like super huge drop off. %60 sounds about right. Yeah, like I said, we're gonna try different things. Magic's a great game because it gives you a lot of different ways to play. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to try this draft tournament, to see if limited was something I'd be interested in possibly ever again. I don't think that's the case though. It's probably gonna be the last time we draft here. We're gonna try some Pauper. It's why I'm dipping back into the fandom tournament on Thursday. Put a little bit of tournament Magic back into the regular cycle as opposed to just doing more of the same, because more of the same seems like it's going to be rough for over the summer. Colonic Cannon, thank you for the 3/4 of your support. I appreciate that. Welcome. Vintage isn't really an option because vintage is not popular. It's like not popular to the point where like it takes a long time to fire a match in the queue. And I'm about to get like double Goblin Grenaded out of this game. I'm hoping that the draft games today are a little bit more engaging than Board Stalls, the format that we played on Monday. Mono Board Stalls was not a good scene on Monday. Like, we went 4-0 in matches on Monday, and like it was just really dry gameplay. So like the tournament, we're playing dry gameplay for money, so it'll be fine. Like, we'll make do, but in terms of like the quality of the gameplay, I didn't really feel engaged in the website, in the gameplay. Anger is good. The rest of the hand does nothing. This hand's great, right? It needs some lands, but it's got a Scry, and I've got an Abrade for an anti-graveyard hate card, and I've got a Bontu to clean the board up and buy us a little bit of time. So the problem with 1v1 Commander is it's also best of one. Which made it, we actually tried 1v1 Commander once upon a time on Magic Online, and just like it being best of one is just super rancid. Really, I personally just do not enjoy Magic as a best of one game. Alright, so do I Abrade this Dorko, or do I just let them vomit their hand a little bit, and then Bontu's them? That is a Frog Tosser Banneret. It makes their Goblin and Rogue spells cost 1 less as a Goblin Mana Dork. Oh, I drew Goryos, but I don't currently have a way to get this Gristle Pig in the bin. I mean, if I'm not Abrading this turn, I'm putting a Blood Crypt into play tapped, so I think that's what I want to do. Yeah, I could, like, skip my land drop, but the problem with that is that I'm not doing anything for the next 2 turns. Like, I'm holding my card on turn 2, I'm holding my card on turn 3. Like, that doesn't seem particularly good. If they're missing a land drop here, I'm gonna go ahead and just Bontu's this board. So this is my lands don't untap next turn, but killing their accelerant when they don't have a, and I don't really have anything good to do next turn. If I draw an untapped land in the next 2 turns, I can breach the Griselbrand on 5. So keeping the board clear, my health total high is good because my health total is a resource when we're comboing because it allows me to draw with the Shoal. As you will. We might see them take through the breach here, which means Faithless Looting still a live draw because I have Goryo's Vengeance. Yep, breach makes the most sense. Goblin Matron, do 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 do, boo do, do 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 do, boo do 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 do. What do you got? Which goblin is going to grace us with its presence? Siege Gang Lieutenant's probably not a terrible find here because it like drains our health total. Makes it harder for us to full combo. Unfortunately, outside of Faithless Looting or like Discovery into bin a Griselbrand or Ransack into bin a Griselbrand, we don't have any draws that really combo next turn. If we hit a land, it then opens up through the breach as possible draws. But Faithless Looting, as is often the case in the decks that play it, Faithless Looting is an ideal draw here. Well, probably just Abrade this chieftain. It's going to power up their squad. So, and again, this just goes back to like the fundamental problem with 3-mana Teferi, is that we have a lot of good ways to kill 3-mana Teferi. We have Fry and we have Noxious Grass that we got in this most recent set. The issue with 3-mana Teferi is the fact that he cantrips. So you play your Teferi, you down tick him, and then even if he doesn't win the game on the spot by locking your opponent out of playing instant speed spells, he still gives you a card and the game goes on. So like the ceiling on this card is it actually wins the game for 3 mana, and the floor on this card is I bounced your thing and I drew a card and it gained me a life. So like the peak is really high and the floor, the worst it can be, is like still really good. We have a ton of good answers to Planeswalkers in this format. We have trophies and fries and noxious grasps, like. Teferi cantripping is the problem with all Planeswalkers, so basically they just shouldn't print. That's not true, Fearburger. This isn't Trump's Twitter account. You don't just get to come here and post bullshit and lies. Sorry. Gotta have actual facts. They all just cantrip is not true. In fact, if you look at a variety of the Planeswalkers that exist, that's not an issue with them. And again, it's not just the issue that he cantrips, it's the fact that they have the ability to go along with it. And they had a sideboard card, so we died. Welcome to Modern, enjoy your stay. It's not just that one part. It's the culmination of everything. All right, 5th time's the charm, chat. Actually, we can't even play for prizes in the 5th match anymore, right? Yeah, I'm done getting beat up with this one. You need 2 wins to get anything back in these leagues. Isn't it really the same with Nissa? Nissa costs 5 mana. It's so different with Nissa. Nissa costs 5 mana. All right, let's do a quick wrap segment here on Griselbrand. If you're gonna play a graveyard deck in Modern, hope your opponent doesn't draw their sideboard cards. If you're gonna play a deck that has a bad matchup against something in Modern, hope you don't